Hello everyone, welcome you all to the day 3 of Arena training. So today also we will be going through the content and workshop documents related to Arena exercises. Right. So yesterday when we are like going through the session, right? So we like mainly focus on projection. So when we're looking into the projection, so what kind of things that we can have, and when we are testing a projection file, so how we can access it, and if you want to get more information like metadata, what kind of a URL that we have to go through, and then after that, when we are continuing with the next part, so we discuss about the client. So then we were able to create a small kind of a page which could be able to visualize information about countries. So at the end, the result that we got was like something this. So I want to actually show some information related to this, right? So actually, now we were able to actually create this countries page, and there we were able to get the information. So country ID is appearing with the country name. So let's assume now, like you have got kind of a basic idea about how these network calls are going on, all those kind of scenarios. But yet, we haven't tested these network calls, how these things are connected with this form or the page that we have created here. Now, let's try to figure out how to check or how to do a debug on these things. So for that, actually, we have a good kind of a tool that is provided from Chrome, which is a developer tool. So if you want to access developer tool, how you can access it is, so when you go to your Chrome application, there you have three dots. So when you like hover around on top of it, you will be able to see that there are three dots available here. So when you click on that, you will be able to get kind of options here, and there you have an option known as more tools. So when you go on top of that, you will be able to get another list, and there we have an option known as developer tool in the very bottom of it. So when you click on that, in my scenario, if you can see here, now I'm able to get some information like this. And what I will do is I will be collapsing the navigator, and my net developer tool, I'll keep it like here. And after that, so if I want to get it out, so there are options for that as well. So maybe I can take it out. Okay, right. Maybe I have to log into the application once again. Right, that's fine. So let's give the credentials and log into the application. So I actually want to show you some network calls and how these things are being specified with the knowledge that you have now, right? So let's go for that. Right, it's getting loaded. Okay, now let's see whether we could able to get the window that we were working with. So probably if I search here, I would be able to get it. Okay, no, from here, I guess. Right. So we have to edit this out. So for that, I'll get the help of URLs that I have shared with you all. So I have made a small change as well. So let me note out as well. So in the public share, actually, I have created a folder as day 2, right? So there, under day 2, you will be having this notepad, right? So in the notepad, I have shared all the information. So you will be able to get anything that you have missed in yesterday's session as well, because I have already shared all the information there too. So in case if you have any difficulty while you are trying to do this exercise, you can get this from this point, right? Okay, so I'll keep it here, and then for today one, I'll keep another folder as day 3, and all the information related to that will be shared through that. Okay, right. Okay, my bad, I didn't got here renamed. Okay, right, now we are able to access the page. And meantime, I'll get the developer tools as well. So let me show you once again how to access the developer tools. Here you have this option, right? So once you click on that, there you will be getting list of options available. And from there, you have to go for more tools. From that, you have to go to, uh, yeah, maybe I'll show you once again. So here, developer tools. Right, so let me minimize this and let me try to take this out. So here we have the option as dock site. So as you wish, you can get it or you can locate this developer tool as you wish. Maybe a side, maybe you want it separate window. So those can be handled from this dock side option. So you have this kind of option here. By clicking on that, you will be able to get this option as well. So I'll get it as dock side because I want to show you some information related to this. Right. So here what I will do is I'll go for the network location, network tab, and then I'll first clear this. Right. So maybe you can also try it with me. So when you get the developer tool, you can go for network and there you have kind of an option as clear option. So by clicking on that, you will be able to clear this out. Right. Have you? Okay. Then what we can do is, so I'm going to again populate this. In order to do that, I'm going to do a soft refresh from this location, not from here, right? Not a shell refresh. So I'll show you what is a shell later, but I'm going for a page refresh. So when I refresh, now you will be able to see that there is a call going on. And if we want to go for more information, we can select on this call. Then you will be getting more information about that code. So we'll have a look what are the information up there. So when we select on that, you will be able to see the request URL, how the request being generated here. So if you select this, select on the link. So maybe I'll get it fully. So we have to actually select only the URL. So maybe I could select the URL, right. Then when I right click on it, I have an option as go to this URL which is selected. So if I click on that, now you will be able to see something that you're familiar with. When we are previously working, so when we got the service document and from there we were able to access the metadata document, and also when we want to see the data in that specific logical unit, we could access from here. So at that point, we could able to see the instances that been added or that been related with that particular entity. Now, when we try to use this link also, so which is generated from here, we are able to access the same page from this. And if I show you more information, so we have the TRN and countries entity set here mapped. And along with that, you will be able to see that there are some more information available here. So we are mentioning that skip 0 and top 25. So let me give you a heads up on what is this 0 and what is this top 25 means. So if you have worked with application, Enterprise Explorer, it means application forms development, and when you are dealing with Enterprise Explorer, the previous client that we had, at that point, so what we had to do is when we are trying to go to a specific window, and then we have to forcefully populate it. So we have to right click on the window and then we have to go for a populate if we want to see the list. But when we are comparing it with the Arena client, we could simply like this population option is a default one. So whenever we are trying to access a specific page, then the data will be automatically populated for the table. So that's how in Arena client works. So that when we are trying to populate, we have to specify, or from the framework it specifies that don't skip any records from top. And also we have to populate 25 instances of that particular entity set. So that's what this is mentioning. Don't skip any record and also populate the first 25 batch or the first 25 of instances that is coming from this TRN countries entity set. So that let's assume now here it's 3. So we can do a change like this. Maybe what I can do is so here is also originally that should be there. Okay, maybe I'll edit it here. Then it will be easier. So I want only 2 records to be popped up here. So then I'll enter it. Now you will be able to see that only Sweden and Sri Lankan records being able to populate or they are able to visualize here. But the other record which is related to India is now not there. But if we give here as maybe 1, what will happen is that only the first top record will be appear here. Like that way, by default in Arena client, it is filtering the top 25 records. But let's assume there might be windows that contain more than 25 records. So whenever we are trying to access that kind of a particular page, there will be a see more option at the end, right? So we will be able to see the first 25 records, and along with that, at the end, there will be a see more option. So with clicking on that see more option, we will be able to populate the next 25 records as well. So like that way, if you want to see more information or see more records, it will be like separated as 25 batches. So if we want to look into the other 25 batches, we can go for see more option. Then we will be able to get the other 25 records as well. That's how it works. Right. And also there are more informations actually I want to show from here. So you can see that the request method is a get one. So when we are trying to populate, we are trying to read the database. So the request method is a get one. And there is a status code going on as 200. So not only this we will be able to see. There are some more information that we can get from these developer tools. Right? So other than that, we can go for the preview tab which we have here. And there are also some information mapped here. So maybe I can expand this out. So you can see that there are some OData protocols going on here, some information. So if we expand these also, we will be able to see the data that is being fetched from the database. So this is related to Sweden, this is related to Sri Lanka, and this is related to India. And also there is a service document being mapped here as well, right? So maybe I could show you this one. Okay, so here you can see that we are accessing enterprise handling.svc metadata TRN countries. From that, we are able to see the data that is being fetched from the database too. Right. So after that, maybe we can go to the other kind of things as well. Not only this, right? So there are more things that we can get from here. So what I will do is I will clear this out again, right? So I made it clear. Now what I am trying to do is I'm trying to add a new record to this countries window. In order to do that, we have this new option available. So this actually a command, right? So when we are discussing about Arena, we are addressing these kind of buttons as commands. So we have this add button or new command. So we can click on that. Then we are able to add a new entry to this countries window or the page. So let me add something like CH and I'll get it as China. And then when I'm trying to save it, let's try to see now what kind of information being added to our developer tools. Now, actually, there are two calls been going on here. So let's try to select the first one and see what was there and what is this one. So the first one, I'll select this. And if I go to header, so there is something like TR and country default. So I'll get it to this part later. But before that, I'll go to this TR and countries one. So when you click on that, now you will be able to see there is a different kind of a request method. So the request method is a post one, POST. It means when we are trying to add a new record, the request method is POST or the post. And also the status code is now changed as 201. If you go for the request URL, now you will be able to see that we are trying to access TRN countries. And also, now let's go to the payload, this one, right? So you will be able to see if you go to this payload, the information that we are trying to save to the database. So the country ID, it's related to China. Oh, sorry, the country name is China and the country ID is CH. And let's go to the preview too. So in the preview, you will be able to see the call which is going on, the request which is going on along with the data here. And if you go for the responses as well, there are some more information you will be able to see, right? So it means how the projection V1, how the call is going on, that is mapped here actually. Maybe I can expand it here. So you can see the entity information and there is something like e-tag. So this is something that we will be discussing later. And there is kind of something information on type, ID, those kind of information being mapped here. Logical unit name, keyref, the values that we are passing into that. So all the information is mapped here as parameters. So if you want to get more information about the calls that is going in background, you can use this tool and see what are the information that is passing in the behind scene. Right. So I'll clear this once again and let me try to do something like this. So actually I'm going to do a change to this record. That's what I'm trying to do here, right? Now we were able to add a record. Now let's try to edit a one. So I'm going to edit this one. So we have the edit command. I have selected this record. So we can edit it out. And I'll go with China edited. So when you are doing these exercises, I recommend you to add your own new record. Don't change for the things that is existing at the database, right? Don't change Sweden, LKO, India, these records because these required for the next couple of exercises as well. So it's better that if you can add your own new record and doing these changes for that, right? Okay, so now I have added a new record. So let's try to see whether now still it's clear. So let's try to save it now. Now we'll see what we get now. Right. So the new request method is now patch. Previously it was post and get that we have worked with. Now it's patch. It because we have updated our existing records. That's why we are getting the request method as patch. Status code it's 200 and the request URL, now you will be able to see that we are passing a parameter along with our URL because when we are editing we have to specify which record that we have edited. So in order to do so we have to have the country ID and we are passing the value that we are trying to edit. So because of that reason we have to pass the value. So now you can see the request URL, it's coming along with the parameter or the kind of like a key value in order to filter this out. Right. So that's something that you can see from header section. Maybe we can go for the payload as well. So in the payload, now you will be able to see that the edited value being mapped here. Right. So actually I only edited like the required here requirement was that I have edited the name of China. So I mention it as China edited, and that value is mapped with the request. If you go for the preview, there also you can see that the information being mapped here. So the new value that we are trying to pass and the country ID that we are trying to edit, all the information being mapped here. And now what I'm trying to do is the remaining action that we have to do. So we have added the one, we have populated the record, and also now we have edited. The remaining one is that we can do a delete and see what kind of calls are going in background. So as I mentioned you all, don't go and delete any kind of existing records because we are using these values later. So what you can do is you can delete the record that you have added. So you can select on that and you can delete it. Right. So there is a message, I want to delete it. Okay. Now let's see what kind of calls are going in the background. So here, if I select on this one, TR and country ID, and you can see there is something passed here. So let's try to click on this and see what information out there. Right. So if we go to the header section first, right. Now the request method is completely different from the things that we got previously. We got get, post, patch. But now the request method is delete. And when you see the request URL, maybe I can make this bigger. Right. Let me maximize it. So then I could able to show you the whole request URL because currently it's not showing the whole scenario here. Right. It's keeping loading. We'll give it a moment. Right. Now you are able to see it. So in the request URL that you can see, we are trying to access TRN countries. And here you can see that we are passing the value same like country ID CH because we are trying to specify that we want to delete the record which is related to the country ID CH. And the request method is delete. Status code it's 204. And if you go to the preview, now let's try to find preview. Okay, it's a blank one we get. Maybe we can go for the response. Okay, no response data available because what we are trying to do here is we are trying to delete a record so that we are not passing any kind of a value or we are not fetching any kind of value. What we are doing is we are passing the country ID and from that we are trying to delete a record from the database. So the request call is going from here and then other kind of values that we are trying to fetch or pass or something like that is not be doing here so that we don't have any kind of values being connected to with this request call so that the preview and the response we are getting it as blank. Right. So there are some things actually I need to cover up on slides as well. So maybe I'll go with that part and after that I'll start with the exercises. So regarding this section now, we will be looking into models and code generation part. So there are some things actually we need to discuss about these things. And also there are some things or contents that you are already aware as well. So let's go for the first one regarding projection model. Now you are aware that in the projection model, it's related with dot projection projection, right? So please ignore my handwriting. Right. So we have, when we are creating files with dot projection extension, so they are related to the projection model, right? When we are creating a projection model, it's related to projection and we will be getting a file with extension of dot projection. So let's try to have a look on what is the purpose of that projection model and what kind of things that we can look into from the projection model. Right. So actually projection model specify data sources and operations, right? The purpose of having a projection model is that it can specify data sources and operations, and these will be made available as well as defined from RESTful web services, and also they are like these are related with OData protocols as well, right? These are making available through RESTful web services, API protocols, right? So these are related with the OData protocols as well, all the things, right? Okay. So when we are looking into main syntaxes, now you know what is entity set. Entity set being created in order to expose a entity. And when we are working with entity set, there are kind of operations that we can do: create, delete, update, and also we can read data. And other than that, actually, we have two more remaining syntaxes that we will be discussing further in our training in future. So it will be functions and actions. So we will be discussing about these things later, but just to give you an idea, so there are some main syntaxes that we will be using with projection as functions and actions. Right. So the next one is related with the client model. So now you are aware that the extension of the client model will be client. Right? So what's related on that is actually when we are working with client model, it's actually contain information about UI elements and their layouts, and also binding data with the projection. So as you aware now, when we are working with client models, we have to connect them with the projection model in order to get them work. So that's related with this binding scenario, data binding one, right? So in client model, what we will be containing is UI elements, layouts, and also data binding to the projection. And also when we're looking into main syntaxes that we will be using with client model, we will be working with pages. Now you already aware with a page, we have created a page now, but there are different other kind of scenarios as well. We have assistant, it is something related like a wizard dialog box that will be guiding a person to go through step by step to in order to do an action. So we have the assistants available, and we have groups. So today we will be discussing about what is this group and how we are using the group in our content. So list, you already know. We have created a simple list yesterday and we have binded it with the page. We have used it inside of the page. And along with that, we have selector, command, dialogues, right? These kind of syntaxes also we will be using when we are working with the client model. So actually we have top level containers like page assistants, and we have visual elements placed inside of the container. So these are placed inside of these containers. So those will be group, list, selector, command, dialogues. Right? So maybe it would be better that if you can go through these slides as well to get you kind of an idea about what are the developments that we will be doing, and also what are the things that we can do when we are doing the arena development. Right, maybe I can move forward then. So actually this slide been discussed by me and also Tarindu yesterday. So I'm not going to explain this scenario once again, but just to give you an idea, this is the projection model, we have the business logic. So if you want to access the business logic, then we have to access it through the projection model. And also with the privilege of having a projection model, we can access this data from third party applications as well, right? So from other third party applications also, using this projection model, we can expose the business logic which is in the base server layer. Right. Then this is something important because this is something that we haven't discussed previously. So this is regarding code generation. So you are aware that whenever we trying to deploy data, we have to first save them and then we have to generate the code. After that, we have to deploy them to the database. Then only we will be able to see kind of an output from our Arena client. So now we are going to see when we are trying to do the code generation, what kind of scenario that actually handle from the framework end. So here, now if we go for the client model, let's focus on first client model. So when we are creating a client model and when we are generating record or generating code for the client model, what will be happening is that there will be the client information will be deployed to the database. That's true, right? Client information will be deployed to the database. So actually, you might be wondering now where these records being deployed to at the database. So when we're looking into that scenario, actually there are framework related tables in the database which have the records related to the client metadata. So whenever we are generating a code for the client model and whenever we are deploying them to the database, what will happen is that data will be saved to framework tables which contain client metadata, right? We have specific tables which contain client metadata. So at that tables, the data that we are deploying to the database will be saved, right? If you're looking into the projection model, it's a bit different compared to the client model. Why I'm saying so? Because when you're generating a projection model, actually there is something in between happening here. There will be a package generated as projection underscore SVC. This is actually a PLSQL package, right? So I hope that you are aware on packages, right? So this is a PLSQL package generated when we try to generate a projection model. And when we deploy this particular package to the database, what will happen is when you are deploying this, so we will be having projection metadata deployed to the database. So these will be stored in framework tables. And also there is something known as CRUD method wrapper classes, right? There is another kind of section being created here and they are also being deployed to the database. So when we are discussing, you will be able to get an idea what is this wrapper class, right? And what contain those wrapper what are the things that is contained in these wrapper classes. But for now, you have to have the idea that whenever we are trying to generate a projection model, there will be a PLSQL package being generated. And when we deploy it to the database, so there will be two sections actually. One is projection metadata. So those will be saved to the framework tables. And the other part, those are known as these wrapper classes. So those will be also saved to the database, right? Okay. Then along with that, there are some framework packages available too, right? Some important framework packages. So we have this models design sys package. Model design sys package. So this is actually related with the mm, this model design sys package. As I can remember, this is something related with the securing part. And also we have this navigator sys. So it has the client navigation entries. So it's handled the client navigation entries. These are actually provided from the framework, right? So all these methods or the packages. So we have this FND data provider sys package. So this actually a retrieve projection and client maintain data when necessary for IFS data provider. So now you know that there is a middle tier as data provider when the cores are going through on these data provider based on the requirements. They will be getting information, or this package will get information from the projection and client metadata in order to fetch data and in order to do kind of actions. So this will be the supportive package for that, right? So we have three packages: model design sys, navigator sys, and FND or data provider sys. If I go to the next slide now, this is kind of like an overview of architecture. So you are kind of like getting an idea now, as I hope, like because you know what is the data container, and we have the projection metadata, client metadata, and the database, and we have the IFS web service running on our browser, right? Like when we trying to access our application from the browser, we would able to like access from the IFS web, and from there we can go for the request. So those are going through this IFS or data provider, and from this we are connecting to the database, and we might be fetching data, and we might be doing kind of actions, and also sometimes we might access projection metadata for the data provider, and we will be like accessing client metadata in order to like when you are kind of like working with the UI UXs and the interfaces. So at that point, we will be accessing this client metadata in order to prepare those things, and other projection related things might be useful for the IFS or data as well. Right. So what will happen basically on this is when a HTTP method call is like going on as a request, so it will be going through the IFS or data provider. So this is actually using the projection metadata as I mentioned previously. So after that, when we are like going through a call or when we are doing the request, those calls will be going through these wrapper classes. So wrapper classes are dealing with the IFS business logics and data, right? We have the wrapper classes and they are like interacting with IFS business logics and data. So from that, based on the call, we might have to access the business logic section and get the information back to here, and we have to provide it back to IFS web.
Can I have a question?
So yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
there is this wrapper box. Are these
Yeah.
the Oracle packages ending with SVC?
You mean about how the wrapper class has been like exposed to us?
Kind of, yes. Because you use the term class, and I was wondering what this is really is. So I
Yeah.
thought it might be the Oracle packages with the prefix SVC. Is that true that, or is it
Yes,
something else?
it's true.
Okay. Okay,
So there are
thanks.
actually Oracle packages available. So whenever like we want to access our logics, we are accessing them in through the wrapper classes or the packages. Hope it's fine with you.
Yeah, okay, good. Thanks.
Right. So I'll also use the Oracle package scenario. Like otherwise, you might wondering what is this. So these are actually packages. From the packages, we will be able to access the business logic. So when we are looking into the generated files and other things, I'll show you the packages and how they have been interacting with this IFS business logic. I will show you, right? Okay, maybe then so this is also kind of like an overview, right? So we will, like we have been discussing about these overviews previously as well, but this is also kind of like a architecture that we can have a look when we want to get an idea about Arena architecture. So here what actually happen is now, let me get the pointer to this point, right? So we have the application model. There might be different kind of files available like dot projection, dot client files. There is another kind of a file set as dot fragment, and we might have dot pls, plsvc. So actually this dot plsvc file contain kind of like implementations when we are working with functions and actions. So if you want to implement kind of a business logic, we will be using this .plsvc file. So along with that, we have other kind of files as well when we are doing the modeling part. So once we're done with that, we have the model files and we have the source file. So this plsvc actually a source file, right? So once we have done with this part, we will be generating the code through the code generator. So when we generate the code, now you know that there will be a PLSQL package being generated and there will be client metadata generated, right? So those kind of things will be saved to the database or the storage. After that, now let's assume here. Now you can see that in the database server, actually we have a specific section that we will be keeping projection related information, projection packages. And also we have another particular section for the client information and also meta information. So when you are working with IFS or in application, sometimes we might want to access the client metadata endpoint. So then there will be a call going from IFS Arena to the client metadata endpoint to get those meta information. And from that, it will access the client metadata section. And from here, they will fetch the required data and they will be cater the requirement. Right? So this is actually kind of like related with the client UI UX and all the things, client interfaces. So the other part is now when we are having the interfaces, we have to have the data as well, right? So we have to have the data now. For that, from the IFS or in application, there will be going like these are O data requests. So those O data requests will go through this O data provider, IFS O data provider, and from that they will be accessing sometimes projection metadata to get the information, and sometimes if we looking into PLSQL SQL codes to fetch information, we can deal or we can have PLSQL SQL server invocations through the database server to fetch necessary data, right? That's how these are working on. So at the end, what will happen is when we like looking into here, now as you can see, we have a call going for the from the client part. It's like we are accessing the client metadata, and from that the client metadata endpoint will get the data, and from that we are accessing the client metadata in the database. And at the end here, what will happen is we will be rendering the client interfaces, right? In this section, what we are trying to do is we are rendering the client interfaces. The other part here, we are trying to fetch data from the database for the interfaces. And sometimes if you want to run any kind of SQL logics and all the things, business logics, so this section will be handling that part. right? So when there is a OData request is going on, then it will be going through the IFS OData provider. From that, there will be a projection related metadata is going as a call, and from here they will fetch the projection related metadata if it's necessary. And also, if we want to work with any kind of logics, then that part will also be executed here, right? Okay, so if I move with the next part, so it's also kind of like an overview. So what we have already discussed is also like explained here. So maybe I'll get all the information for you. Right. So same scenario, right? So we have the application models and source codes here. So it will be going through the code generator and it will be saved to the database or the database server. And when we are looking into that, so there will be a PL, sorry, a package, and there will be like through that package we might accessing business logics as well, the API packages. And from the API packages, we are accessing the table storages. And also, in order to have information about like client metadata, we will be having a separate section. So it will handle the client metadata. So whenever there is a request going on along from from the Orin application, so there might be like calls going on here, and they will be accessing the page metadata, and from the database server they will fetch the data and they will render the UIs. And if we want to go for the data, then we will be working with projection metadata, and sometimes we might have to work with actions, CRUD operations. Those kind of things will be happen through the FND or data provider, right? When the request is going on, it will go through this OData provider, and from that, they will be fetching necessary data for the pages. Right. So before going into the next part, I would like to know if you have any questions related to this section. If you are clear up to this point, maybe I can get a raise of hand from you if it's
Can we
clear.
go back to the previous slide? I have a question
Yeah.
there.
So it's for the other one, right? This one. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, there is the bottom box, bottom big box. There is client information, the light blue box next to
Okay.
metadata.
This is
And
client information. Yes.
I'm wondering what's stored in that client information.
Yeah. So the thing is, uh, maybe it's Janos, right? I think I have pronounced your name properly.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay. Right. So when we are like saving information to the database server, I mentioned that when we generate the code, so we have a particular package being generated when we are trying to generate. Maybe I could show it from here. Right. So with okay. So I mentioned that when we are like working with projection model, when we generate data, there will be a package generate, a PLSQL package. So when we deploy it to the database, there will be projection metadata along with wrapper packages. So those information actually are saved to this part. So we have three sections here, as you can see. We have projection package. Now in this projection package, what we'll be having is that package, the PLSQL package, which is generated. And after that, I mentioned here, when we are working, we have some client data as well, which is generated when you are working with this. So there is a section or there are a set of data being deployed to the database as client metadata too. So I mentioned that there will be a specific framework tables which carry these data or which save these data. So at that point, whenever we want to render a UI UX, so we will be accessing that client metadata or client services, because those are containing data related to the client information, or what are we trying to get from the client files. Whenever we try to generate the client folder, that information will be saved in the client information section. And And also
Okay.
there will be yeah,
Okay, please
so there
continue.
will be yes, okay. So there will be another part, like as I mentioned, so there might be like we are binding data together, and there are some metadata which is coming along from the projection, and there will be some metadata related with the client information, files that we are getting. So those kind of data will be saved to the meta section. Hope it's clear for you, Charles.
Not really, because what we talked about yet regarding client was only metadata, and that would fit into the rightmost blue box. That was
Yeah,
my my
okay.
thought. But we have a box in the middle with client information, and it should be something different. And I couldn't. Was thinking of maybe client runtime information, or like this profile stuff or something like that. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, Tiny, if I can interrupt for a minute, I think,
Yes, Parinder.
yeah. So what Janos mentioned, I think what you mentioned is quite correct, Janos. So it's the metadata is basically for us to for the client to, maybe, for example, if the client needs to decide if a particular field is mandatory or not, then client metadata is used for a particular entity that we are exposing. And apart from that, you have some additional client information, not only any entity specific metadata, but information like maybe the Arena shell page. We need to initially load it when you're accessing the Arena client. So things like that are also stored. Some parts are stored in the middle tier, and some of the metadata relevant to our initial Arena framework are stored as JSON in the database. So there are two types of metadata actually stored. Maybe when we go through the generated code, we will discuss about the differences that we have in this metadata. There, I think you will have a better understanding, Janos.
Okay,
Yeah,
then let's do it like that.
yeah,
Okay, but it's clearer now.
yeah.
Thanks.
Right. So maybe I'll continue from this point. So if we do we have any questions related to this other than that? Hope it's all good, right? So if you have anything, you can reach us through the chat as well, right? Okay. So we are like looking into the Arena UIs now. So this is also something that we can do regarding like we should have to have kind of an idea what are the elements up there in Arena UI and how we can use these things as well. So basically what we have this is the shell. So Tarand also mentioned the shell uh, application. So the shell application means that the overall part of the application. It means like maybe if I can show you, okay, looks like it being stuck. So maybe I can start it again. Right. So until it's getting loaded, let me continue from this point. So actually, when we are looking into a page, what we will be getting is like something here. So this section. So when we trying to navigate from one page to another, this content will be changed according to the page that we are trying to navigate. But other than that, there are some other kind of a section related with the Arena as well. So the whole scenario will be addressed as shell application, right? So in the shell application, in the shell part, shell window actually, so there what we will be having is we will be having the navigation to the application pages. So here you can see there is a navigator. So today we will be looking into that. And then we will be having some user informations as you can see here, right? So based on the logged user, that information being mapped here. And when we want to access to the user settings, so we can click on this, and then we will be having this kind of option list, and from there we can go for count settings and all the kind of things. So like that way, there are some things like which are related to shell as well. So the page is also related to shell, but along with that, there are some things that we like see which are not that much of changing. So like whenever when we are logging into the application using IFS app, then this IFS application owner will be like this until we log out from the application. So these are not changing like the pages. They are kind of like a fixed thing. So the navigator, it will be there. And the other files like logos and there are other kind of properties available here. So those are related to this shell. So if we want to do kind of a refresh to the shell, what we have to do is we have to access the upper refresh button, and from that only we have to do a refresh, then only the whole shell will be refreshed. So after that, actually, there are some more information that I could show you. Maybe I can get the point. So actually, I cannot see. Maybe right. Okay, now it's fine. Let me clear this. Right. So we have something related to shell as home option, and we have the recent screens. So whenever like we want to see what are the recent pages that we have access, we can use these recent screens. And we have a top bar. Then we have the navigator panel. We have the user and context, this one. And we have user settings. Then we have like pages which are hosted in the shell. Shell is kind of like a container, and pages are hosted inside of this shell, right? So if we want to do a refresh, we have to go for the refresh on the Chrome and then do a refresh. If you want to go for a soft refresh, we can just refresh the pages. As I showed you previously, there is an option like that too. But if you want to refresh the whole shell, then we have to go with the browser refresh button. Right. Then after that, let's go with the page types. Right. So I mentioned that Arena shell is the container, and inside of that, we will be able to see the pages. So let's now see what are the pages available. There are different kind of pages, like page types available. Now the first one is I'm looking into is the page type lobby. So lobby is a page type, but actually in this training, we are not going to discuss about this lobby much, because there are separate trainings that we are discussing about this lobby and how to do a lobby design or lobby developer. And there's a specific tool for that as IFS Enterprise Explorer Lobby Designer. So we have to use that kind of tools in order to do this kind of like if you want to create a lobby page, then we have to do that designing part using specific tools. So there are different trainings or specialized trainings for that. So if you are interested, you can also take part of it. But just get an idea that there is a page type known as lobby 2. Right. Then let's go to the another page type, which is known as um, assistant. So I mentioned that previously also when we are like looking into the main syntax, there were this assistant, right? So let me point out that as well. So this assistant, it's actually having kind of like a guide to the end user. We will be guiding the end user to enter data as step by step. So maybe first step, that person need to enter personal information. Then the next step, sometimes some kind of a order information. And the third step, maybe bank information. Like that way, we can guide the end user to do that work. Or if we want to do kind of an operation, we can use this assistant and guide the end user to enter data step by step, because sometimes it might be complex to have all the information or all the fields in a one particular window and ask them to fill it out. They might get confused, and they might like not go for some optional fields as well. But if you want to encourage them to fill all the information without get them missing, and if you want to keep our application attractiveness, we could use this kind of assistant. Then they will not be bothered because they will have kind of a smaller uh, windows to fill their data, but step by step we will be able to get all the information, even though it's a complex action we are trying to do through that, right? Okay, so actually when we're looking into assistant, we have a step indicator. So from that, what we are doing is we are like indicating the end user that you are in this step, the remaining steps. So those part we will be showing through this step indicator. And for a assistant, we can have commands as well. It means sometimes we might want to navigate from one step to the other step. So for that, we can use the command like next, and we can move forward to the next step. Like that way, we can go through the assistant using the command. And if you want to finish our work, we can have a finish button there, finish command there. From that, they can enter the data and finish their work. That is another page type. And the basic page. So this is something that you have already worked with. So yesterday we have worked with a page. So it's also a page type, right? So using a page, what we can do is like a lot of things actually we can do. We can view information, we can edit data, we can create data. That's one thing. So if you want to have kind of like commands to our page, that's also possible. We can add commands, and from those commands, we can do different kind of actions. So we can introduce single columns as well. For the page, we might have only single column, and there might be showing one data there. If you want, we can go for dual columns as well, right? And we can have collapsible data sections as well. If we want, we can expand and we can have a look on that section. Otherwise, we can collapse it and keep it collapsed in a collapsed manner, right? We can collapsible, since we have these collapsible data sections, if only required, we can access that section and we can have a look inside. So it's also help us to helping us to reduce the complexity of the window and to keep it simple as possible. So these kind of things can be used in a normal page, right? We can have commands to invoke actions. We can have like data, we can view them, edit them, create data, and also we can have single columns, dual columns, and we can have collapsible sections as well, right? So in a page, we can have actually different kind of data. It means there might be sometimes we are keeping it as a table, maybe a chart, maybe a card. Like that way, there are different kind of sections or data sections that we can keep in a page. Now we are going to have a look on that. Right. So now in this scenario, we are going to first have a look on what is a data section and how we can use these data sections, right? So that's the thing we are going to look into now. So the first data section that we are looking into is this card list page. So actually, when we are creating a window or a page, we can have cards to view data as an alternative way to view data. We can have like cards, and from the cards we can show information, maybe text, fields, images, also charts, and also we can have commands too, right? So this is also something that is introduced in order to improve the attractiveness of our application, right? We can improve the attractiveness by adding these kind of different data sections. So card is one of them. And if you want, we can have a heading for that as well. That's not a problem. Card, heading, fields, commands, those kind of things we can add with cards. Then we can have list. Now you already worked with a list. So there we can have the columns, and in the columns we can have the data. So if we want, we can actually convert the table view into a card view. That's also possible. So I'll show you that part, how to do that. So you have kind of a button here in your application. So from that you can select whether you want to have it as a table view or whether you want to have it as a card view. So you can either select table view or maybe card view, right? So as you prefer, you can choose how you want to visualize the data in your application. And we can actually choose columns that we should need to filter out. So that part we can do it from this location. If you want to filter data, we have an option like this. So from that we can choose what are the columns that should appear in our page. And if you want to filter rows based on a given value, right? Maybe kind of like, if you can remember yesterday, what we did was, when we are trying to get that API Explorer, I had to search it from the component. So from that, I would able to filter the records there. So that same scenario, it work here too. We can filter rows because it's hard to go through all the records available. So at that point, we can filter the records and we can access them easily. And also there is an option as we can export the data that we have in the particular page directly to a Excel sheet. For that, actually, we have option like this. So using this option, we could export data that we have here to a Excel sheet too, right? That's also possible. And here we have sorting option as well. So when we click on the employee column header, we could sort them from alphabetical order, and we could see the data ordered or sorted here. And if you want to select a particular row and do kind of a necessary action, you have to select on these three dots, and from that you will be able to do kind of actions related with the row. And this one I have already explained. So if you want to visualize this data as in the cards, so that's also possible. Otherwise you can keep it as table view. Right. So other than that, if you want to add a chart, let's assume now the end user who is using this application, they want kind of like a report to be generated along with the charts, or kind of like an interface, a dashboard. They want some information to be analyzed and appear them as a chart. So that's also possible, because Arena we can add charts to the pages, and we can view the data in a chart as well. We can embed charts to the page, maybe to a card as well, and we can visualize them. So there are different kind of chart types available: line, bar, pie, radar charts, and there are different kind of charts available. So actually that is a privilege that is added here, because when you are looking into the industry, there are people who more into these kind of charts, so they will be easily get the information throughout charts. And then, as you can see here, now these are pie charts, so we can add them to cards as well, right? So for a card we can embed a chart for that, and from that they can get an information. And maybe like if there's a requirement of adding a timeline to a page, that's also possible. Sometimes there might be we have a requirement like arranging events based on the timeline. So that's possible using Arena application. We could create a timeline, and we can arrange the timeline with events. So whenever person want to look into the events, they can go for the timeline and see what are the dates arranged for the specific event, and how you have to arrange your plans. Those kind of things you can have an arrangement by looking into these timelines. This is also something that is added as to improve kind of like a user interaction, right? So to make things user friendly, these kind of elements being added to the Arena client, timelines and all the things, right? So, okay. Then other than that, what are the information that we want to look into? Right. So the next part is calendars. So let's assume now you're working on a kind of a employee attendance, and if you want to have kind of like attendance being marked, or maybe you have to mark kind of like your absence. So you can have a calendar option added to the pages, and from that you can mark the attendance and all the kind of absence and all the things. So this is also a visualize item to outlook the style of a calendar. So you can add these kind of elements to improve the visibility of your application. So whenever like we have added the calendar, we can view them as month view, week view, maybe work week view, day view, agenda. Like that way, we can view as we want, and we can do our work accordingly. Right. So you can see this is kind of like an absence approval, right? Okay, so other than that, there are different other kind of UI elements available too, right? So as you can see, we can have fields, we can have date selectors like this. Okay, okay, this is a date selector. So we can have date selectors for date tabs or date fields. We can have ratings, we can have status. So status, we will be discussing them later in this training. And we can have badges, contacts visualizations. Like that way, there are different kind of elements being added in order to improve the user friendliness of this application. Right, so what basically about this is actually we have the building blocks available, so we can use those blocks and build our application, right? We can only build with these blocks, but the thing is, using these blocks, we can easily do our construction on our application, right? So that's what this implies. Right. Now, before going into workshop exercises or any other thing, I actually want some things to note when you when you're doing the developments, you will be also able to experience these things. So I want to note them out. Now, let's assume, actually, I'll go with step by step. So, like in case if you want me to repeat any point, let me know, right? Okay, the first step that I'm going to explain is let's assume now when we are working with our client application and we want to, or the client, sorry, client file, my mistake, right? So when you are working on this, we have done a change to the client file. Then if you want this change to be reflect in our application, what we can do is we can save here, and then we can right click on top of the screen, and then we can go for generate code and deploy. That is one way. The other way around is we can go to the navigator here, and we can right click on it, and here also we have the option as generate code and deploy. So you can either use this way, or maybe if you feel this is better, then you can use this, right? So you can right click on top of the client file, and you can go for generate code and deploy. Then let's assume now the next step I'm going to explain is if there is a change happen to the projection file. So what are the steps that we need to do in order to reflect the change in our application? So the thing is actually if we have done a change to the projection file, we have to make sure that we are deploying the projection file, and after that we have to deploy the .client file as well. It is actually a kind of like a good practice that we are doing, right? So what we can do is, first we can go for enterprise handling entry, then we can RMB on top of it, and then we can generate code and deploy. After that, we can get back to the manage geographies, and there also we can do a generate code and deploy. That is one way. Or the other way is that we can go for the projection file. Let's assume now we have done a change here. Then we can RMB on top of the file and go for generate code and deploy. That's also possible. So once you're done with that, we can move to the client one, and there you can go for RMB and generate code and deploy here. Oh, well, there is another way, right? Actually, kind of like three ways available. If you have done a change into your projection file, rather than deploying all the files, it means the projection file and the client file separately, there is a framework option that is given to you to make things easier for you. What is that is, you can RMB on top of your form, the projection file. You can right click on top of your projection file. Then you can go for generate code and deploy with dependents. So when you click on that, what will happen is framework itself figure out what are the files being connected to this relevant projection file. So when we try to deploy them to the database, so what will happen is, along with the projection file, we are able to deploy all the related client files as well. So it's really easy for you to use that option, but it's not like actually like it's not necessary to do this always. Based on the way or based on the requirements, based on the scenarios, we can adjust and we can select what is the option that we have to go for and do that part. Maybe sometimes we only need to do the we have done a change to actually only for the client file, then there is no point of going doing this part. We can simply deploy the client file, but better to do if we like if you are doing a change to the projection file, then it's better that we are deploying the projection file along with the related client files, right? So what you can do is, you can right click on top of your file and go to generate code and deploy with dependents, right? Okay, so there is another thing actually I want to point out when you are doing this deployment. So I hope that these tips and tricks will be easier for you. These will help you to get your work easier when you are doing the development, right? So here when you are going for the TRN country, now assume that we have done a change here. Maybe name, I don't want it as country, I want it as country name. So we have done a change here. Now, what is the flow that we need to do in order to reflect the changes in the application? First, what we need to do is, we have to generate code and deploy the relevant entity. That's the first thing we need to do if you are doing a change to that particular entity. After that, we have to make sure that we are deploying the projection file, right? If whenever like we are going to do a change to the entity, we have to make sure that we are doing a generate code and deploy to the projection file. So when you are doing so, you can just use this generate code and deploy with the dependents. So at that point, your client files which are related to this projection file also will be deployed to the database. But the thing is, it's necessary that if you have done a change to the entity, you have to make sure that you're doing the relevant deployment, or you have to generate code and deploy the projection file which is related to that entity. So now since we have gone through kind of like theory parts and all the things like that, so I'm shifting to workshop document, right? So you can also like work with me things, right? Like when I'm explaining things and when I'm doing the development. So maybe you can also work with me parallelly and get the things done. And also I will sharing the code too, but I don't recommend you to get them copied. But in case if you have any kind of difficulties, I will be sharing all the codes that I'm working for, like that I will be like create 4 answers today in this day 3 Arena development notepad, right? So it's related for today. So I will be copying things, code snippets that we will be using for the today's exercises here, right? So in case if you miss something, or in case if you have any difficulty while you are trying to do or get something, you can refer to this and you can get the code. Okay, let's get back now. I want to go for the um, document. So yesterday what we did was like you have created this project, and then we have created an entity set which is TRN countries, and then in order to do that we created a projection model which is enterprise handling, and what we are currently using is projection that we created yesterday. And then we have generate code and deploy, and we have tested this as well. So we tested the metadata and the data that is fetching from this service document, all the things that we have tried yesterday. Then moving along with that, so we created a page which is TRN country overview, and I have added page to this, right? So in my scenario, it's a TRN country overview page, right? So we created a page and we try to display country information. So for that, what we did was like we created a client model, which is manage geographies that we are currently working with. And there we created a list, which is TR and country list. So I use the same names for those which is in the workshop document. And for that, I used two fields as country ID and country, because in the requirement, it's mentioning that we want to have the country ID country appear in this page. And then as the next part, what we did was we connected the list that we have created with the page, and we try to see a title as countries in this relevant page. So far what we got is like we got the countries page like this along with the data for that. We get the country IDs now and we get the countries when we are trying to populate. So before going into that, actually, let me show you. Like previously, when I'm trying to show this one, my screen was stuck. So this is the actually soft refresh. So this will only refresh the particular page. But if you want to go for a shell refresh, you have to do the refresh from this part, right? So the entire application will be refreshed then. Okay. So that is a small tip actually. I'm like planning to add here, right? Okay. Let's get back. Now, if I get back to the workshop document, so we were discussing about here, right? Then we were able to add page title, and for that, actually, we connected the country list as well. Now, today, we are going to look into a new section that we are going to add a navigator in order to access this country's page easier than the way that we are currently trying. So, if you like notice, whenever I want to access this particular page, I have to keep this URL in a safe place, and from that I would able to like access this page, right? So whenever I want to go for that, I have to either format the URL and I have to access the page, like I have to type it manually and I have to go to manage geographies TRN country page, like that way. One way actually I can access, or otherwise I have to keep this URL in a specific place, and whenever I want to access this one, I have to copy that URL here and get into the page. But if you are like if we think from end user side, so a person that who are using this application, that person is it will be really hard for that person if we like ask them to edit this URL all the time and get to the relevant page, or maybe like keep all the URLs copied in a document, and whenever we want it we have to get a copy of that, and using that we have to access that page. That's not fair actually, right? When we are looking for the end user experience. So rather than doing such scenarios, actually we have something known as a navigator in our application, which help us to do a smooth transition in between different pages. So what we simply need to do is we can search here for the page, then also we can go to that relevant page. Or if we want to like navigate through these entries, we can go like that as well. So maybe if I want to access a page which is inside of the solution manager, I can click on this. Then I will be getting child entries related to that. Maybe let's go with something like background processing. And there we have background jobs and here like that. Then I could be able to access that particular page. So rather than having URLs saved in a particular page or rather than formatting the URL all the time, I could easily navigate to a page using the navigator. But the thing is, just creating a page, and if I search here countries, no, I don't have it. So you can see that page is not found. Actually, there is a workaround that we need to do in order to add add a page to the navigator. So let me show that part now, how to do that, right? Okay, we'll do this way. So I'll be getting the documentation once again. So there are some informations given here, right? There are some information given here. So if we read through this, now the requirement is that we are trying to add a navigator entry to a TRN country overview. So this overview page we are trying to add into the Arena Navigator, and we are trying to make things easier for the end user to access this countries page. Then in order to do that part, there are some points given here, what we need to follow. So if you go through it, we are asked to create a new client file called TRN ENT Navigator root. Right, so what I will do is I'm not actually going through the same order which is specified here, right? I will actually do this development in two ways. I will do the implementation in two ways, so that what I will do is I will first not go and do a not I will first not go for a client file, and I will not rename or I will not create it as this TRNENT navigator root. I will keep this aside for a now. Then what I will going to do is I will be showing you one way that I can add a navigator entry to the to this specific page, and I'm going to I'm going to add a navigator instance or the navigator entry to the navigator of the Orin application in order to make things easier when we are accessing this countries page. That's what I'm trying to do here. In order to do that, I mentioned that I will be showing you two types. So the first type is that I'll show now. So when we are doing this first type, so I should uh, hint out that this is not the recommended way, right? The recommended way is the second way. But I'll first show you the first way of doing this. And in order to work with that first method or the first way, I don't need a file. So I'm not going to create any file for now. But later, when I'm showing you the suggested way, I'll show you how to create the file and how to work with that. Right, so what I will do is let's go to our developer studio now, and let's start with the activity. Right, so in here, and before going into that, actually I want to point some words here. So we are asked to create a top level navigator entry called manage geographies. So when I'm asking you to create a top level navigator, so you should have an idea what is this top level navigator means. Actually, top level navigator is means like whenever like when you are going for the client application, so like you can see there are set of things available here. So inside of these things, we will be able to see other kind of sub entries. So these are known as top entries, right? Under top entries, there will be child entries. So these are top level entries. whenever we are like logging into the application, in the navigator, what we see are top level navigator entries. And inside of the top level navigator entries, we could place child entries as well, right? We can have sub entries for these top level entries like this. Now, there is another word that we are using in order to address these top level navigator entries. Those are known as parent entries as well, right? Because like they are working as parent child, so these are known as parent entries, and inside of these parent entry we have child entries, right? So that is also a one name that we are using in order to address top level entries. Okay, now let's go for the Developer Studio and I'll show you how we can create a top level navigator entry and how we can add a child entry for that and how we can use it in order to navigate to a particular client form or a page. So in order to do that, what I will do is, give me a moment, guys. Okay, all good. Right, so let me share the screen once again with you all. Right. So I'm going for the manage geographies client file. And there, so you can see there is a region as navigator entries. So this specific navigator entry section is there in order to keep codes related to navigator. So what I will do is I'm going to create my code here. So for that, I'm going to use the help of IntelliSense. So there I'm going for the control space and you will be seeing the options. So there I'm going for end and then it will be filtered out with navigator. So I'll click on it. Then what will happen is it's kind of like block here. As you can see, there is a block being created as navigator. So under this navigator block, I'm going to place my root or my parent navigator entry or the top level navigator entry. So in order to do that, again, I'm going to use the help of IntelliSense. So control space, then I can go for entry. Then when we go for the entry, you can see that there is requesting a menu name. So for that, we have to give a name, right? For this specific entry, I have to give a specific name for that because when we are accessing things, we will be using this name. So what I will do is I will be giving something like maybe since I'm using okay, manage geography. So something like this I will give manage geographies nav entry. Nav means navigator. So entry, right? I'll keep the entry name like this. So I mentioned that this will be a top entry, right? So when you can see here now, we have kind of like a way that we have listed these top level entries. You can see settings, my administrations. After that, we have the reporting. After that, we have the application based setup. Like that way, we have kind of like a order. So now, whenever we are trying to add a new top level navigator entry, we should make sure that we are not being conflicted with other inventories available here and we are placing it in the place we want. We have to locate in the necessary place of this navigator. So how to do that, right? So there is actually a way that we can like look into this ordinal of the way of these things being ordered. For that, what you can do is right? So I'm just showing you how these been listed, how this order been created. So for that, I'll go for Arena. Sorry, I'll go for the developer studio. Then I will be getting a execute window from here, execute command, and there I will be going for a command like this. So I'm not going to actually go from the beginning. I will be using kind of like this, which I have created previously. So there is something known as FND Navigator Structure tab. So this tab contain information about Navigator, all the Navigator entries, ordinals, and other kind of information which are related to Navigator are contained in this particular FND Navigator Structure tab. So if I populate this and show you, or if I like run this out, we'll see, okay, there is a window being generated here. Now you will be able to see all the entries in the navigator being mapped here. And there is a specific thing like ordinal. Ordinal is the one which arrange this order, right? According to the ordinal, we are arranging the way that we should appear these navigator entries. Right. So if I get back to here now, you can see that there are different entries, and some entries they have parent entry. It means we have the child entry, and for that there is a related parent entry as well. So when we trying to access that child entry, we have to go through the parent entry, and from that we can click the relevant entry, and from that we can access the connected page. So other than that, there are a lot of things available here: row versions, row keys, and visibility, whether we have made it visible or not, the ordinal, and the child entry name, and the parent entry name. So let's assume now, if we are looking for the top level entries, so we know that they don't have any parent entries because these are the parent entries. In order to get them filtered out, I will do something like this. I will be having a where clause, and from there I will be kind of like fetching values like this way. I'm going to have a where clause for this tab, and I will be going for parent entry name as 0. And then if I run this out, did I make a change? Okay, let's see whether this work. Okay, invalid number, as I guess.
You'll have to
So
put quotes.
maybe, yeah, we'll try this out.
Just try it with the quotes.
Yeah. Okay, that worked. Right. So now you're able to see that we have parent entry as zeros here. So it means that these entries do not they don't these particular entries that we are trying to filter from this doesn't have any kind of a parent name. When you are trying to look into a one specific top level entry, for that there is no any other kind of a parent entry, so that we can filter it out from parent entry name with 0, and then you will be able to list it out the top level navigator entries. And there you will be able to see the ordinal as well. So ordinal 200, 201, like that way, you will be able to see that 0, 1, like that way, right? So I will just do kind of like a ordering as well. I will order this by ordinal. So let me get that too here. We'll hope this work. Right. Now you will be able to see the arranged data based on ordinal. So maybe I'll give this whole set of code in the shared location as well. So you can try this out in your machines as well. So in the Arena development notes, I'll copy it here, right? Okay. Then Now we know that there are set of ordinals, but we are aware that okay, we don't need to go for any kind of conflicts like guessing things and all the kind of things when we are trying to assign a ordinal for what we are creating. We could simply refer to this and we can get what place we want to locate our parent navigator or the top level navigator, and from that we can choose and keep that point. So what I will do is now, since you can see that we have around 2100 ordinal, so I'll be like having my top level navigator as 200 2000, sorry, 2200. So then there won't be any conflicts, right? Okay, what I can do is I'll get back to my window or the client form, and here I'm now going to specify which place I need to keep my top level navigator. So for that, actually, we have a couple of keywords. So I'm going to get the help of IntelliSense. We have top level keyword, right? So top level, and we can have another keyword. I think we have the keyword as at. So top level at, and there will be another keyword that we have to add as index, right? Entry, entry name, top level, at, index. So these are keywords. This is only the thing we can rename, and also the index we can change. So I'll give something like 2200. Right. Now, if we create this top level navigator, it doesn't make sense that like if we keep the name as manage geographies nav entry. So we have to have kind of like a meaningful name when we are adding a navigator entry. So here in documentation also, I think as I can remember, it's mentioning. Okay, yeah. So you can see that we are asked to call it as manage space geographies. So we are asked to give a name for the top level navigator as manage geographies. So I'll be copying this and I'll be getting back to the developer studio here. And now we have option as label. This is something that you have used already. So for the text, I'm going to use the name I want for my top level navigator. Didn't I copy it? Right. Okay, it's available. Oh, right. I got two. Maybe I can remove one from here. Right, all good. Now our top level navigator is there. So if you save and you can like you want, if you want to check whether this is been appear in your or in application, what you can do is you can save this and you can deploy this and you can refresh your client application and check whether this kind of a top level navigator entry is there or not. Maybe rather than like stopping this in the halfway and looking into that and again getting back to here, what I will do is I will be completing the child part 2, and after that we can deploy and we can do kind of like a testing and see whether what kind of result that we get. So now the top level navigator entry is there, but we have to have the child entry relevant to this page because this page we have to access through a child entry and that should be connected to this top level navigator entry. So how we can do is, this is the way that we can try that out. So again, I will be having an entry like this. And for the menu name, what I will do is I will go with something like TRN country overview. Maybe I'll get this copied from here. Otherwise, it might take some time. So I'm going to get that because I'm going to connect these navigator entries, the child navigator entry with this. So I will have this as nav entry because this is the entry that I'm using to connect the page for that. Right. Okay, so you can see the entry name is now TRN country overview page nav entry. Now I have to make sure that this entry is mapped with the relevant parent or the relevant top level entry. So in order to do that, actually we have a kind of a keyword known as parent. So let me get back to that part. Now I'm going to get the help of IntelliSense again. So you can see now we have the parent option available. So I'm going to use that. And for that, now I'm going to map which I'm referring from here as the parent. In order to access that particular one, I have to first use the client name of my file or the client file name. And I'm going to paste it here. Dot. Now what I will do is I will be going with the navigator entry. Why I'm specifying this? So I'm going to add a entry as this, which is the parent entry that is located in this manage geographic client file. And I have to have the entry name. So it's this one that I'm using as the parent navigator. And also I have to give an index for this at index. Let's keep like 10 because this is something that we create, right? Maybe 100. Let's give it like this. Now we have created that part, but still we haven't connected our page with this entry. So for that, let's get the help of IntelliSense once again. And if you're able to see here, there is an option as page. And now I'm not passing any arguments, but I will be referring the page. So for that, I'll get a copy of this and I'm going to refer it from here, right? I'm going to give the name. And also, if you can see in our documentation, in the workshop document, it's mentioning that entry should be called as countries, which must be added under manage geographies. And it should be connected with TRN country overview page. Now the connecting part we have already done. Because as you can see, let me get back to the developer studio. So it's kind of like bit lagging in my end. Okay. Now, if you can see here, we have the entry, right? Which is the child entry, TRN country overview page nav entry. And we are referring the top level navigator, which is on top, right? So let me show that one. Okay, it's kind of like lagging. So maybe, right. Okay, now this is the top level navigator entry. So under that, we are placing this entry as the child entry. So now for that entry, we should have a label. So the label should be showed as countries. So currently, now the page name is like this. So when we try to get this, the name will be appeared like this. But the thing is, actually, we want to show it with a specific label as countries. So now we have to point it out as well. So for that, we can use the label option here too. So let me get the help of IntelliSense. Otherwise, I might be doing some mistakes here and there. Right. So here for the label, I'm giving countries. Okay. Now we are done with that part. So let's try to save this first. And also what I will do is I will be deploying this to the database from the projection name. So how I can do is I can come to this part, then I can right click on top of my projection file and go for generate code and deploy with dependents. Then you can see now all the two files being mapped here. I can go for generate code and deploy. Let me show you something here. Now in the output window, previously, if you can remember when we are trying to deploy things separately, we only got either .svc file or the service file or the CPI file. But when we are trying to deploy them according with the dependent, we will be able to deploy them together. So the SVC and CPI file both are deployed to the database without any issues now. So what I can do is I will be going back to my solution and I will be refreshing this. So I'm refreshing my entire shell, right? So maybe I could show you the result too. Now you can see there is a top level navigator entry as manage geographies. So it's on the bottom, right? So if you can remember, I mentioned the index as 2200. So it's located on the bottom. And if I go to that, I have a sub entry or a child entry as countries. And if I click on that, I would able to get the countries page populated here. We discussed the first way, which is not actually the recommended way, right? So the recommended way, when we are doing the development, it's big different. And actually, there are some more things that we need to discuss when we are doing the recommended way. And we'll discuss the things of that. And also, there are some points that we need to look into when we are doing file generating and what are the things contained on that, right? So those part will be there as well. So we'll discuss on those things too, and we'll continue with that point. Okay.